mass that you're carrying on yourself, but the momentum from carrying your body. Each one of those strides, you're increasing the amount of pressure that's being put into those joints, into those ligaments around the knees. Without stabilizing our secondary muscle groups, you're at higher risk for injury. Now, our psoas are a little bit higher up in the region, a little bit further up here. Those are important as well, because those help with our connective tissue around our hips. Same thing with the hip flexors themselves, which are right in here. A lot of times, those are muscles that are often overlooked, and those are the ones that usually cause us the most pain. Not only do the hip flexors are a common misconception. A lot of people think the hip flexors are just part of the hips that connect everything right here. But the hip flexor is also that V-shaped muscle that goes from your lower stomach. A lot of people with a six-pack abs, they immediately think of that nice V shape, that nice V cut. They think that's part of the abdominals, but in reality, that V cut is part of your hip flexors. The thicker that muscle is, the more support you'll have around not only where the connection point is between your hip joint and your glutes, but also between your hip joint and your quads as well. So that's what's going to absorb most of the pressure. A lot of times having tight hip flexors leads to problems with your back. That lower back pain, there's an area up in here called our piriformis muscle. It's right about in here. And that is connected to the hip flexor, but it's also connected to the lower back. Right in the lower back region, there's a large group of nerves. That's where everything comes together in your spinal cord. Most of the time when people are experiencing lower back pain, it's because there's some type of pressure being placed on those muscles. And most of the time, it's because people aren't either properly stretching their hip flexors or their psoas. Now, some very basic, easy stretches to help with this. And the most common one is this right here. All you're gonna do is take your leg, place it up like this. If you have the balance, go ahead and squat into it. That's gonna help loosen up the piriformis, the glutes, and part of your hip flexors. Now, if you can't hold yourself up with the balance, just come to a table and drop right into it. This is one of the best stretches, I think, for you, especially for running. Another one for the hip flexors, a very simple stretch, is to drop back into a lunge position. Try to push your toes into the floor and push your knee forward. I like to bring up my opposite arm, help stretch it out and elongate your body. This is very, very important for loosening up this region right in here. You can add a little twist to it, and it helps pull even more. Those right there are two of the most fundamental stretches for working those secondary muscle groups. Now, obviously for the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, and the calves, there's a large variety of other stretches. But those little muscle groups with the hip flexors and the psoas, it's very, very difficult to target them. Another technique that I like to use as a personal trainer is called myofascial release, or most people know it as foam rolling. Taking either a foam roller or some type of a pressure ball and you rubbing it against that area. What that does is that helps release tension. It's like getting a massage. When they're rubbing out a knot, same thing, except you're doing it to yourself. Those are some of the best techniques out there for loosening up the tension and working on those muscle groups. Now, in terms of regular stretches, obviously, if you want to stretch your quads, this is one of the best stretches for you. I'm sure most of you have done that before, or going up against the wall and stretching out your calf muscles. But I'll talk more about the flexibility later. I really wanted to address those secondary muscle groups. Those are some of the most important parts of building up those primary muscle groups, those leg muscles. Now, I'll go over a couple exercises in a little bit. So, on to the next one. VO2 max. Like I was saying before, endurance and VO2 max are another important part of running. This is something that's not often described or talked about a lot, but what VO2 max is, it's the maximum rate of consumption, distribution, and utilization of oxygen. Or basically, it's how well your body is using the oxygen that's being taken into it. Now, everybody in this room has a different VO2 max. There is a special equation, which I'm not going to get into because there's a lot of different levels to it, and there's different charts that we use to figure it out. But VO2 max, essentially, what it does is it helps us figure out how much oxygen you're able to take in and use while you're exercising. The higher your VO2 max, the more efficiently you'll be able to perform whatever exercise it is. In running, this is one of the most important things, is to have a high VO2 max. Now, I'm not too worried about calculating it, but obtaining it and increasing it is the most important part. Now, being able to consume and distribute more oxygen in your body obviously is going to benefit you as a runner because your endurance levels are going to go up. And that's what's most important. If you're looking to get to that speed or make that certain time, sure, you're going to want to work out and strengthen your muscles. But what's most important is being able to strengthen your body's ability to consume and distribute that oxygen. If you want to make that extra mile or get that extra time in, that's how you're going to do it, is working on your VO2 max. And by doing that, it's different techniques that we use, whether it be interval training or different intensity training or using different ways to push your body so that you're consuming a certain amount of oxygen in this period of time. There's different techniques that we use as personal trainers to help monitor and increase your VO2 max. So that's a little bit about that. So the basic exercises that I wanted to go over today with you guys is just simple stuff that I'm sure you've all heard of before, but as a personal trainer, I just wanted to demonstrate it to make sure that you all see the proper form for everything. So, planks. A lot of people neglect these planks because it causes them pain in their shoulders or they don't have the ability to hold themselves up properly. Well, planks are a very fundamental core exercise, mainly because of the fact that you're keeping your spine in a neutral position. By keeping your spine in a neutral position, there's no compression on your spine. Anybody that experiences lower back pain, whether it be while running or being sedentary, this is a very good exercise to help correct that. On top of that, you're working your inner core muscles, your transverse abdominis. This is what's going to support you while you're running. Your whole superstructure of your body is going to be supported. So there's two versions of a plank. Right here in this picture, they're doing what's called a full plank. Their arms are completely extended. However, another version of a plank would be the elbow plank, which is a very common exercise that many people use when they're holding it on their elbows instead. A full plank is typically considered your up push-up position, whereas an elbow plank, you're down here. Most important thing is that you're keeping your body flat. You're squeezing your stomach, you're tucking in your muscles.
A minute.
Great question. So,
Minute.
how long should you stay in that position? Typically, for beginners, somebody that's never done a plank before, I would say try to get to 10 seconds, then to 20 seconds, then to 30 seconds. But for somebody who's more advanced in fitness, I would say shoot to start between 30 seconds to 1 minute, about 3 to 4 repetitions. So, 30 seconds, drop down for 30 seconds, rest, do another set about 3 more times. The planks are very, very, very good for the core. This is one of the best core exercises out there. Next exercise. Pull-ups. Now, a lot of people cringe when they hear pull-ups, but there's many variations of pull-ups. It doesn't just have to be hanging off the bar and getting your chin up all the way or coming underneath. It doesn't have to be like that. You could go against the side of a wall with a bar, pull yourself up at an angle, grab a chair. You could secure it against the wall or something. You literally just pull up yourself on a chair or a table. I don't know how secure this table is, but you don't have to get your whole body off the ground. There's many different ways to do pull-ups. The reason why pull-ups are so effective is because they're working your lat muscles, your entire back. It helps with your biceps. It helps with your deltoids. Pretty much you're working on all your pull muscles. This helps with the superstructure of your body once again. It helps strengthen your core. It helps align your spine properly. Pull-ups, I would typically do between 5 to 10 repetitions, which you should aim for if you're capable of doing them off a bar. If not, and you need to do a modified version, I would shoot to do a little bit more, maybe 10 to 12, 3 to 5 sets. But like I said, pull-ups, you don't need to think pull-up bar. You don't need to think gym class, There's many different modifications that can be done. I wish I had the equipment to bring with me today to show you, but like I said, there's different ways that you can angle your body, or you could get what's called resistance bands. Tie a resistance band around the bar. Place your knees around it, use it to help assist you to come up. A lot of gyms, I know my gym has the assisted pull-up machine, where there's a counterweight on it. Those are just as good as regular pull-ups. None of us here are trying to pass the Marine Corps PFT right now. It's, except for that guy. you know, what we're looking for is working on those muscle groups, so working on those lats, working on those deltoids, slow contractions. I'd rather you do the exercise properly and go through the proper motion than try to get up there and bust out 20 of them as fast as you can.
Yeah, you distinguishing, like earlier you were talking about stretching, now you're talking building up, are they different, the stretch versus the build up?
Well, the stretch, we're gonna get more into about the stretching itself. As far as the build-up, these are all body weight exercises that I'm targeting right now, and that's why there's a difference. When we're adding weight and doing exercises such as, you know, barbell squats or weighted leg extensions, we're putting in excess mass on our muscles. So the key there, that what we're trying to accomplish, is to build those muscles up by breaking them down by adding the excess weight. Right here, so far, plank and pull-up, we're using our body weight. And as a runner, that's important because that's what you're controlling. That's your tool. Your body is your tool, and that weight that you're moving is the weight of your body itself. So that's why I'm focusing more on the build-up with the body weight exercises. All right. So next exercise that we're going to go into, push-ups. So this is the bread and butter of pretty much all fitness programs, push-ups. Now the push-up is actually the opposite of the pull-up. Push-up works your chest muscles, whereas the pull-up works your back muscles. Now, with the push-up, you're working your chest, your triceps, and your shoulders. You're also using your core, because like that plank in that up position, it's the same thing as a push-up position. Every time you're coming down and pushing yourself up, you're engaging that core. You're keeping your body nice and straight. Now, why would push-ups be important? Well, once again, you don't want to imbalance your body. You know, by building up your back, you want to also build up your chest. The opposites. Push, pull, push, pull. That's the way that your body works. Even when you're in your stride, same thing. When you're kicking your leg out, that's an extension. When you're bringing your leg back down, that's a leg curl. Hamstring or quad hamstring, same thing. Those are push-pull groups. Push-ups, pull-ups, push-pull. Now, there's a wide variety of different push-ups out there. Each one is designed to do something different, such as a wide grip push-up is solely working on your chest, working on those pec muscles, whereas a close grip push-up is working on your triceps. Regular grip push-up hits a little bit of everything, chest, triceps, and shoulders. Now, just like the pull-up, push-up doesn't have to be straight on the floor. You can come over to a wall or a ledge, same thing, and still get that effect. My main concern with most of my clients is making sure that they're engaging those muscles properly. I don't care how many perfect push-ups you could do. I don't care how fast you can do them. What I want you to be able to do is feel it, contract those muscles, and go through the workout where you're able to actually benefit from that mind-muscle connection. And mind-muscle connection is another important part of all exercises, is making sure that you feel it. So push-ups, just a way to help strengthen your upper body. And for runners, this is important because when you're moving your arms, especially after long distances, your arms are going to tend to get tired. This is going to help give you some of that strength where, once again, you're working on that body weight. You're working on controlling your own mass over whatever distance or whatever time period it may be. Next exercise. All right, so this one right here, now we're going to start going into those weighted exercises. Tricep kickbacks. This one's a very simple exercise that can be done with a dumbbell or a resistance band where you're simply just kicking back your arm like this. You want to push through your tricep. Imagine you're pushing your wrist into that wall. Now, a lot of times by strengthening the triceps, we're helping, the triceps are a secondary muscle to the chest. By strengthening the triceps, what we're doing for runners in particular is helping you get rid of that arm tiredness. When you're running those long distances, your arms are feeling tired. You want to have multiple ways to support your arms. One being triceps. You have your tricep, your bicep, your deltoid, and your chest, all to help hold it up. Now, I'm sure many of you have felt that tiredness where you just want to put your arms down when you're going.
I just ran a marathon, and everyone asked, what hurts you the most? It was my biceps.
Yeah.
That I had the most pain. Leg pain was barely nothing. It's all bicep and trap pain.
Okay.
And the back muscles were all pain, so that's why I was looking into that.
Exactly.
Severe pain, by the way, in the biceps. crazy.
A lot of times that's from not working and balancing those muscles properly.
Yep.
Like I said, you gotta work everything here. Even though running is all about moving your body with your legs, there's multiple parts to it. You're moving your arms as well. You gotta work on the full structure of your body. So that's why we incorporate triceps into a lot of my runner programs as well, making sure that they're strengthening the triceps. And then the next one is biceps.
I look like you.
Bicep curls.
Not
Same
even taking your picture?
Same idea. Triceps, biceps. We gotta work on stabilizing the arms themselves in total. Now bicep curls, this is another one of those fundamental exercises that I'm sure everybody has seen somebody do before, where you just grab a pair of weights and contract up and down nice and slow. Now, there's multiple versions of bicep curls. You could do hammer curls, you could do reverse curls, you could grab a resistance band, you could grab a cable. The main point of biceps curls, though, is to target that bicep. You know, for runners, once again, that arm movement. You don't want it to be tired. If you're going to work your tricep, you should work your bicep as well. You don't want anything to be weak. You want everything to be a well-oiled machine moving together, strengthened properly. So, those are bicep curls. Sit-ups. This is another one of those fundamental exercises that I stress to everybody. Now, sit-ups can be, there's many variations of sit-ups. It doesn't just have to be somebody holding the feet and sitting up. You can do crunches, half sit-ups. The main idea is that with sit-ups, you're using both your abdominals, your abs, and your hip flexors. A lot of people don't realize that sit-ups are actually not just an abdominal exercise, but they also work your hip flexors as well. Like I said, that nice V shape, that V cut behind it is where the actual hip flexors go.
Show them that.
All in here.
Show them that.
So what?
The V shape.
Oh, yeah.
But the main importance of sit-ups is really to strengthen those muscles and work on contracting your abdominals and your hip flexors together. A lot of people over-focus on just using their abs to try to pull their body up. And that's usually when you get a lot of sloppy form. That's how you usually end up hurting your back or causing some problem with your spine. When properly using your hip flexors and your abdominals together, it helps you learn how to control your body fully, your entire torso up and down. Another issue that I see a lot with people doing sit-ups is grabbing on their neck. A lot of people love to grab their neck and use their arms to try to pull their body up. Well, all that's doing is it's putting excess pressure on your upper spine. It's putting excess pressure in your traps. You're not getting any benefit out of that. You're not helping your body learn how to move its torso properly. All you're doing is creating more tension and more pressure in other areas of your body that you don't want it to be.
So don't copy him.
Well, no, what he's doing is he's got his fingers nice and loose on the side. A lot of times people will do a full lock, and that's what we don't want. You want to keep your fingers loose. They're just there to kind of guide yourself up. You don't want to pull yourself up. That's sit-ups. Lunges. So now lunges, this is a bad example of picture. It has weights in it, but lunges. Primary focus of a lunge is to help strengthen your leg muscles. Now, there's many different variations. A traditional lunge is done like this. Up and down, up and down. You don't want your knee to touch the ground. You want your leg to get to about 90, but you never want your knee to touch the ground. A traditional lunge is going to work your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads. Now, if we want to alter the exercise, we lean forward. Now we're going to use more of our glutes. We keep our body upright and we step back. Now we're going to use more of our quads. There's different ways to incorporate a lunge into a workout program. Typically, I like to change the way that we do lunges every single time I work with a client. I don't like their body to get used to it, but depending on what their goals is, if I have somebody that says, hey, I want to get stronger, more tightened, toned legs, then we're going to do variation of lunges. But if I have somebody that's focusing solely on their glutes, we're only going to do the glute variation. Now for runners, lunges are very important because they work all those key leg muscles that I talked about, the big ones, the quads, the hamstrings, the hip flexors. Typically, with lunges, what we see is that the average person has a lot of knee pain from lunges. Most people get knee pain from lunges, and that's That's understandable because you're putting the full weight and the full pressure of your body into the knee joint itself. Now, how do we fix that? We do a reverse lunge. When you're doing a reverse lunge, you're still using all three of those major muscle groups. However, you're not putting as much pressure into the knee. All you do is step back. Now, when you step back, it might feel a little unstable at first if you've never done a reverse lunge. But that's good because what it's helping you do is work on your balance in a different plane of motion. And for a runner, you want to be able to move in all planes of motion. Now, I doubt that any of you are ever going to be running backwards across the finish line, but it's always good to work on every single aspect of your body. Now, once again, just like doing the forward lunge, we could do a reverse lunge and lean forward, work more on our glutes. We could lean back, work more on our quads, or we could stay nice and upright and get a balance of everything. But by doing reverse lunges, we take away the pressure that's in our knees. And a lot of times, people who have never known that, never done lunges because they were always afraid that they would hurt their knees, suddenly start doing reverse lunges and start seeing the benefits from the fact that not only do they not have the pressure in their knees, but now they're finding a different way to strengthen up their leg muscles. So that's the benefit of lunges for you. And once again, I'd recommend between maybe 10 to 12 repetitions, 4 to 5 sets. Squats. Now, squats. These are one of the more complicated exercises that work the full lower body as well. Just like lunges, it's going to take you through the hamstrings, the quads, and the glutes. A lot of times, glutes are the main focus of squats, but they don't have to be. Once again, there's different variations. We can move our feet closer together, squat down, work more on our quads. We can move wider apart, focus more on our glutes. For people with knee pain, squats are another exercise that are typically avoided. That's because of the same reason as with the lunge. You're putting a lot of pressure in your knees. You're relying on the superstructure of your body to support the full mass in just 2 joints. That's it. Just these 2 knee joints right here are taking the full weight of your body. So how do we fix that? We move our feet wider apart. The wider apart you go, the less pressure you're going to put in your knees. Your weight's going to be more distributed across the plane. Now, if you continue to feel pressure while you're doing that, stick your feet outwards.
Yeah.
So you want to almost put your feet, almost like you're doing a ballet move here. But it works. You're still working on those fundamental muscles, your glutes, your hams, and your quads. Down like that. Now, you don't have to have a weight, you don't have to have a bar. Your body weight is just fine. And that's why I haven't included any of the weights in the squat or the lunge, because you guys are runners. You need to control your own body weight. That is the most important part. Squats also help us learn how to engage our core muscles too. They help us to work on stabilizing our body by keeping ourselves upright. Another big issue that I see with people doing squats is they come forward or they're up on their toes. Anytime they're up on their toes, they're instantly putting pressure straight into their knees. That's the only area you're going to feel it, is if you're on your toes. If you're leaning forward, you're going to cause problems with your back. So the best way to try to work on that is to go up to a wall and just try to do some squats right near a wall. Try to prevent yourself from falling into the wall. Or another technique that I like to use with my clients is have them look up. By looking straight up, it keeps your body in line. It prevents you from falling forward and experiencing that lower back pain. And on top of that, squats are also a great way to burn calories because you're incorporating the entire body into it. So stretching and flexibility. So I talked a little bit about strength. And those are my basic strength exercises right there. Those are my fundamentals, all my workout programs. Those are the exercises that I believe that most people will benefit from, whatever your goal is, whether it be a runner's goal like you people have, or your basic weight loss or strength goal. Those are the basic exercises that I use. Now, in terms of stretching and flexibility, I always thought that you stretch maybe after your workout, or maybe just pull on a couple things. Well, I learned that it's a lot more in depth than that. It's very, very important to work on warming up and stretching out those muscles. A muscle is just like a piece of rubber band. If it's cold, it's not gonna go that far, but if it's nice and loose, it's gonna stretch, it's gonna contract the way you want it to. The last thing that any of us want is an injury. And most common injuries come from people not warming up properly or moving the wrong way. When you're moving the wrong way, a muscle that's tight, it's just gonna instantly, whether tear, break, rupture, that's very, very, very common among people who don't use flexibility and stretching. Now, flexibility and stretching goes side and side with, building up those muscles. You're not gonna wanna stretch something that's not there. That's what I tell my clients. So in terms of stretching, I showed you a couple basic stretches, but it's very important to understand there's two types of stretches. There's dynamic stretching and there's static stretching. Dynamic stretching would be doing some type of movement prior to doing your primary movement, which in your case would be running. So a dynamic stretch would be maybe some toe touches before you get started, just like that. Or maybe some butt kicks, hip circles. Things where we're moving those muscles, but we're not exerting ourselves fully. We're just simply moving those muscles to get the blood flowing to them. Dynamic stretching. Static stretching would be like what I showed you before, where we're pulling on our quad, we're working on stretching out the ligaments, or we're stretching our shoulder out, we're holding it. That's a static stretch. Typically, I recommend doing the static stretching after you work out and the dynamic stretching to begin your workout. Now, there's a lot of research that's gone into it, and there's a lot of back and forth studies. Me, as a personal trainer, in my personal business, I believe in using dynamic stretching first and static stretching second. That's just my personal belief. But, like I said, there's a lot of articles and a lot of research out there that's gone back and forth over the years as to what's best. And I will always say, do what you feel is best for you and your body. Whatever you feel works the best for you, that's what I would stick to. But besides that, for more running-based stretching, a lot of things that I would focus on is working on stretching out your IT bands. A lot of people don't know how to do that. This stretch right here is one of my favorite stretches before I get done running. And it's just like this, right over left. All you're gonna do is reach down into it. And what you wanna do is you wanna feel it pulling on that leg. So if I'm doing right over left, you wanna feel it in the left leg. You wanna come straight down to those toes. You wanna feel that sharp little tingle right up the left side of the leg. That right there is what's gonna help benefit you the most in stretching out that IT band. IT band injuries are typically some of the most common injuries that I see when it comes to running. Then the other side, obviously, you just switch over and reach down. That right there is one of the stretches that I always use whenever I do any type of running. Besides that, the calf stretch that I showed you before, it's very important to stretch out the calves because the calves are the ones taking all the impact, okay? A lot of people think that the calves are what generate that explosiveness from your feet. Not necessarily, that's only part of it. Your body itself is impacting, sure, it's the knees, like I said, the knees are taking a lot of the absorption of the shock, but so are the calf muscles, and it's important to make sure that those are stretched out because those are what's gonna cramp up first, and I'm sure most of you have felt a calf cramp before at some point. But besides that, that's the importance of stretching and flexibility. You should always stretch before and after every workout, and that's one of my core beliefs when it comes to flexibility. And improving flexibility, you're gonna not only improve your circulation, but you're also gonna help improve the strength, and you're gonna help improve balance and coordination of the mind-muscle connection, which is the idea that your body's moving this muscle and your mind is registering it. Besides that, I think that's all I have on there. So, anyway, that's pretty much it that I have. Anybody have any questions on anything?
How often do you recommend doing strength training during the week?
Strength training during the week, I usually recommend 3 to 4 times.
Then you're going to be sore when you're running. That's what my problem's been. If I do more runs on the weekend and I do that on Friday, I'm too sore to run.
The thing with that is you need to increase your dynamic and static stretching mobility. You need to do, I would try to break it up so that if you're gonna do strength training then, one of those days that you're doing a long run, you should be doing strength training as well. It's not always, a lot of people don't always see it that way. They don't like to, especially runners, what I found is that they don't like to do their run and then hit the gym or hit the gym and then do their run. But That way, you're getting it all out of your tank. You know, you're gonna be sore no matter what, and it's not gonna hurt you to work out when you're sore throughout the week. It's more of a mind over matter thing. It's that lactic acid that builds up in our muscles and all that pooling of the blood. That's what causes the soreness, you know. As far as you can run, you're never gonna tear your muscles as much as putting them under the stress of a free weight, you know. So it's completely safe and within your realm to be able to work out through that soreness. But that's more of a mind over matter thing.
Just on the side of strength training there, low weight, high reps for runners? Because
For
we're not
runners,
looking to bulk up.
for runners, I would keep the weight low and the reps high.
Okay, look over to your right. There you go. Question.
Yes.
I spent about 4 or 5 days in the pool, about a half an hour. Do you have any suggestions how I can best utilize that time to get all my muscle work?
So in the pool, one thing that I like to do in the pool to help increase speed and help increase endurance is to just run back and forth. Run as fast as you can into the deep end and run back, you know. Run back and forth into the deep end, run back. Another thing.
I do that because I can't swim.
Another thing you could do is just do jumping jacks in the water. Basic jumping jacks. You could do some knee jumps, jump as high as you can. Work on getting your body to feel that resistance of the water and your body trying to overcome that resistance.
Could I utilize everything you showed here in that pool for that half an hour? And get all my work in?
You could. The only thing is that with things like push-ups and pull-ups, the buoyancy of the water is going to negate some of your weight, so your muscles won't be placed under the same tension that they would on dry land. All right. Anybody else?
I have a question. Talking about the pool, I see a lot of people putting their legs out of the pool and doing their crunches that way. Is that beneficial or is that?
Are you talking about where their feet are still in the water and bring them up?
No, their feet are out of the water and they lay on top of the water and then pull up.
So what that's doing is that's engaging those core muscles. Depending on their level of fitness, they're still working on moving those muscles. So there is some benefit to it depending on your own personal level of fitness. Anybody else?
I was thinking one, but I'll throw it at you anyway. It might be a little different. I used to do deadlifts,
Okay.
and every time I did deadlifts, I used to get a very stiff pain in my groin area. What's causing that?
Typically, that's a pre-sign of a hernia. Usually, when you come with deadlifts, you're not using proper form. When you're doing a deadlift, whether it be a neutral grip or a hex bar deadlift, whichever type of deadlift it is, what you're doing is you're forcing that pelvic wall upwards, while at the same time engaging your glutes and your hamstrings, your hip flexors, pretty much all your lower body muscles. So when you're doing that,